Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the specifics of the Law of One, focusing squarely on Session 94.
That's right. And this isn't just skimming the surface. We're aiming for a deep question-by-question analysis.
Exactly. Think of it as unlocking the layers. Session 94 touches on some really fascinating things: the instrument's state, catalyst, experience, even specific archetypes.
It really does. It moves from the very practical, like the instrument's physical condition, into these quite profound concepts about how we process reality. Lots of potential insights here for anyone, really, who's on the path of seeking.
Our mission, then, is to unpack all of that. We want to make the complexities accessible and pull out those key pieces of knowledge for you.
Right, looking at the instrument's well-being, those higher density interactions, the mechanics of spiritual growth, all of it.
Okay, let's dive right in. The session starts, as they often do, with the instrument's condition.
Yep, the routine check-in. It's always a grounding start.
Question 94.1. Could you first please give the condition of the instrument?
And Ra replies, I am Ra. There is some small increase in physical energy deficit. It is not substantial. All else is as at the previous asking.
So a slight dip, but stable overall.
Exactly. It really highlights the ongoing care and monitoring involved in this contact. They're always mindful of the instrument's energy levels.
Then we get into something more specific: pain experienced by the instrument. Question 94.2 asks,
Is our fifth density friend responsible for the instrument's extreme distortion towards pain during and just after sessions?
a fifth density friend. Just to clarify for listeners, in this context, that means a negatively oriented entity.
Correct. An entity from a higher density, but one focused on service to self, influencing the situation. And Ra's answer is a simple, direct yes.
Okay, so that confirms the source, which naturally leads to the next question, 94.3.
Is there anything that we can do that we are not doing to remedy this situation so that the instrument does not experience this pain or as much of it? They're looking for solutions, understandably.
What does Ross say? Are there remedies?
Well, Ray explains it's actually quite complex. They say, there is little that can be done due to a complex of pre-existing distortions. The distortions are triple in the source.
Triple. Okay, what are they?
First, Ray mentions less than adequate work of your chirurgeons concerning the left wrist. Chirurgeons meaning surgeons or doctors.
Ah, so a previous medical issue. Got it.
Second, the condition's systemic lupus erythematosus, which Ra says causes distortions in the muscles of both lower arms.
Okay, another physical element.
And third, nerve damage, particularly on the left side but affecting both arms, stemming from the thoracic outlet. So quite a specific set of physical vulnerabilities.
Wow, that's very detailed. It really connects the energetic influence to tangible physical condition.
Exactly. It's not just some vague energetic attack. And Ray then explains why it's worse during sessions.
How so?
Basically, during waking hours, the instrument unconsciously makes tiny adjustments to manage the pain. But during the trance state, when the conscious control of the body, what Ray calls the yellow ray chemical vehicle, isn't engaged.
Those adjustments aren't possible.
I see. Ray even says it's difficult for them to make significant physical adjustments without the instrument's full physical consciousness present. It shows the delicate balance.
So the act of channeling itself makes the instrument more vulnerable to this pre-existing pain.
Precisely. Ra reminds them about maybe lifting the cover slightly, but then also suggests warmer clothes for the hands because lifting the cover might lead to heat loss. Very practical considerations.
Which prompts the questioner in 94.4 to think about. Long underwear.
Yeah, I immediately think of the instrument wearing long underwear under the robe that it now wears and an extremely light white cover. Would this be satisfactory?
A logical thought.
It is, but Ra suggests a heavier cover instead, due to this instrument's lack of radiant physical energy. It points to the subtle energy dynamics being prioritized over just physical weight.
Interesting. Then there's a quick clarification in 94.5 about a word Ra used.
Right, the questioner didn't catch the word pterygians and asks if Ra knows the word they're trying to understand.
Yeah, and Ra's response.
Simply, I am Ra. No. A little moment showing the limits of communication, even at this level.
Okay, moving to 94.6. The questioner speculates about the fifth density entity's motive.
Yes. They ask if the entity causes the pain intermittently, specifically to discourage the service to others' work, essentially trying to stifle the contact.
Is that correct?
Ra says it's partially correct. The inaccuracy is that the entity's power, its puissance, isn't strong enough for a continuous attack.
Ah, so it's more strategic.
Exactly. Ra says the entity chooses the more effective of the space-time, necks, basically. The most vulnerable points or moments in the instrument's experience to apply its influence for maximum effect.
More targeted then. Makes sense. Now, 94.7 shifts to the questioner's own feelings.
Yes. Could you tell me why I have felt so extremely tired on several recent occasions? Something many people involved in intense work, spiritual or otherwise, might feel.
And what's Roz's explanation?
They refer back to previous material, stating the contact itself has an energetic cost for everyone involved, the instrument and the support group.
So it drains everyone to some extent.
It draws on the energy each person brought into the incarnation. Ra notes the instrument bears the brunt, but is protected by pre-incarnative, light and gladsome armor of faith and will. Beautiful phrase.
It is. But the group feels it too.
Yes, their contribution of will and faith also has a cost, leading to what Ra calls a weariness of the spirit which is indistinguishable from physical energy deficit, even if actual physical energy isn't depleted.
That's a key insight. Spiritual fatigue feeling physical. Okay, then we get a very personal reflection in 94.8 from the instrument via the questioner.
Right. The instrument apparently had some realizations during a vacation, feeling they coast on the spiritual gifts given at birth and haven't really worked on their human self, which seemed childlike, immature, and irrational, a very honest self-assessment.
That takes courage to voice. How does Ra respond in 94.9?
They start with, "This is partially correct." Then the instrument voices a fear. "I fear if I do not work successfully on my human distortions, I shall be responsible for losing the contact." But they also remember Ra cautioning against over-attachment to outcomes. A real dilemma.
Definitely. Wanting to improve, but fearing that focusing too hard might be counterproductive. What's Ra's guidance?
It's quite profound. Ra gently points out the instrument's jaundiced eye, suggesting the self-critique might be overly harsh. They state that irrationality and immaturity are common for seekers, and that the instrument has actually done significant work.
So, a reminder not to overlook progress.
Exactly. Ra suggests pondering the non-efficacy of judgment when such thoughts arise. Regarding the fear of losing contact, Ra carefully navigates free will, but makes a key point,
Which is?
that this contact wasn't established through rigorous training, but through the instrument's purity of dedication to service and the group's harmony.
So the foundation is intention and unity, not perfect self-mastery.
Precisely. Ra, being humble messengers, questions how anyone can know the creator's will or the contact's future, posing the question back, can the instrument truly cease in service? Reframing it around the core dedication.
Powerful. Okay, 94.0 shifts gears to the concept of the veil.
Yes, the questioner refers to a previous statement. Much is veiled to the most apparently clear observation, and asks for expansion, intuiting it's more than just physical sensory limits.
A fundamental law of one concept, this veiling.
Absolutely, and Ra confirms the intuition. Indeed, we meant not any suggestions that the physical apparatus were limited as part of the veiling process. So it's not about eyes and ears limitations.
So what is it about?
Ra uses a great analogy. Imagine a virile and immature male talking to an attractive female. He might be so caught up in his attraction, his internal state, that the actual content of the conversation, the information, becomes meaningless or distorted.
So the veil is more about our internal biases, our subconscious filters coloring our perception.
Exactly. Our inner state profoundly shapes how we experience external reality, effectively veiling deeper truths.
Makes sense. Which leads to 94.11, where the questioner tries to visualize this.
Yeah, they describe a diagram, catalyst, an arrow, hits the veil, a line, and deposits into either a positive or negative experience repository, a simple input-filter-output model.
Does Rai find that accurate?
Partially. Ra says, the deeper biases pilot the catalyst around the many aisles of positivity and negativity as expressed in the archipelago of the deeper mind. So it's not a straight path. Our subconscious navigates the catalyst based on existing tendencies.
Like navigating islands in an ocean. More complex.
Right. And the model also misses how the conscious mind then further interprets and polarizes the experience after it passes through those initial biases.
Got it. So 94.12 builds on this, asking if experience changes the veil itself.
The idea is, does accumulating experience, say on the positive path, make the veil more permeable to positive catalyst, and vice versa for the negative path?
A self-reinforcing loop, in a way.
Precisely. And Ra confirms this core idea, adding that as experience grows, service to others' entities will increasingly choose positive interpretations, and service to self-entities will choose negative ones. Our chosen path actively shapes future perception.
Which leaves the questioner in 94.13 to ask if this self-acceleration is by design.
Yes, was this mechanism planned to be self-accelerating by the logos?
And the answer.
Ra corrects one detail. There is no variable permeability involved, but otherwise says, yes, the concept of it being self-accelerating through interpretation based on the chosen path is correct.
Okay, not the veil changing, but our interpretation changing.
Yeah.
Subtle. Then 94.1 Thor expresses some confusion.
Yeah, the questioner understands the need for a model or archetype for catalyst, but why one for experience beyond just positive-negative repositories? Doesn't a blueprint for experience limit free will?
A really deep question about cosmic architecture and freedom.
It is. Ra acknowledges the productive confusion but doesn't give a direct explanation. Instead, they point back to the archetypes and their attraction to male-female, suggesting the answer lies in exploring that direction.
Guiding them to connect the dots themselves. Okay, 94.15 starts the detailed look at archetype 4.
The questioner describes the male figure facing forward, face left, interpreting it as reaching for catalyst, with negative catalyst being more apparent.
How does Ra respond to that interpretation?
They correct reaching to grasps what it is given with authority, so more active engagement than passive reaching. But Ra says the rest of the observation about the prominence of negative catalyst is perceptive.
Grasping, not reaching. Important distinction. 94.16 continues with card 4.
The questioner notes the figure is seated on a darker square with a cat inside. They guess it signifies understanding the illusion's nature and the separation of polarities with experience.
Does that align with Ra's view?
Ra says it varies markedly. They steer attention to the cultural meaning of the great cat, which guards, asking what it guards, and with what oriflamme or symbol it lights the darkness.
Pushing for a deeper symbolic reading.
Yes. They confirm polarities are present, but separation comes from experience. Ra also highlights other details, like the milk-white leg and its pointed foot. Lots of layers.
Then a quick pause in 94.17 for a word clarification.
Just confirming the word was foot. Ra mentions a slight speaking insecurity due to pain, but assures they can continue. A humanizing moment.
Definitely. Back to the analysis in 94.18, focusing on the feet in cards 3 and 4.
The questioner contrasts the unstable feet in card 3 with the pointed foot in card 4, suggesting careful balance, especially on the left pointed foot.
Is that significant?
Very. Ra calls it an important perception, a key concept. They use a T-square analogy. Experience seems to detach the foot from a secure base, yet experience itself places it securely in the foundation of the archetypical mind.
Wow, that's quite a paradox.
It is. Ra says experience highlights both the fragility of structure and the surety of structure, how experience both challenges and solidifies our foundation.
Profound. Okay, 94.19 offers another interpretation of the posture.
The questioner sees the figure facing left, with the left foot pointed left, as a defensive stance against the left-hand path, implying no need for defense against the right.
A logical read of the visual.
Ra says that wasn't the intended suggestion, but doesn't say the perception is incorrect. Again, allowing for valid alternative interpretations.
Interesting flexibility. 94.20 looks at the magical shape on the card's right edge.
The questioner links this shape and its position to the spiritual significance of the right-hand path.
Does Ra confirm?
Yes. They explain the figure's attention is drawn leftward, to catalyst, often seemingly negative, while the power, the magic, resides on the right. The challenge in third density is taking catalyst, whatever its appearance, and creating a positive, magical experience from it.
The power is in the positive response.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What about 94.21?
The suggestion is that archetypes 3, catalyst of the mind, and 4, experience of the mind, work together solely to create polarity efficiently.
A functional view.
Ra says this cannot be said to be incorrect and suggests contemplation, a nudge to think deeper about how they work together.
Okay, 94.22 takes us back before the veil.
The questioner theorizes that prevailing catalyst wasn't really catalyst in the same way because it didn't efficiently create polarity. Experiences were seen more clearly as coming from the one creator, without the same interpersonal dynamics.
A logical consequence of the veil.
And Ra agrees, finding the concepts discussed without significant distortion.
Good. 94.23 returns to card 4's visuals, the light and dark areas.
The questioner expects, and sees, greater definition between light and dark, interpreting this as the result of catalytic action causing separation along the chosen positive-negative biases, following the blueprint for experience.
linking visual contrast to polarization.
Yes, and Ra affirms this perceptiveness.
Then 94.24 focuses on the bird symbol.
The questioner observes the bird from card 3 seems internalized in card 4's figure, suggesting the catalyst, flight, has been integrated into experience.
Like accepting and internalizing a lesson.
Ra confirms the perception is correct, but then asks the student what they think the bird signifies, pushing for personal meaning-making.
Leading to 94.25, where the student guesses.
That the bird signifies communication, catalyst, accepted and used as experience, but they express uncertainty.
And Ross' feedback.
Quite direct. That bears little of sense. A clear indication that interpretation missed the mark.
Ouch. Okay, moving on to 94.26, the crossed legs in card 4.
The questioner guesses the meaning is similar to the cross of the crux ansata. Anka.
Is there a connection?
Yes, Ra confirms this. The cross of living limbs signifies the nature of beings manifesting in the illusion. And crucially, all experience and service have a price or effort required, commensurate with purity. All manifestation offers itself for transformation.
A deep statement about the nature of being and acting within the illusion. And 94.27 follows up on the bird again.
Asking if the bird within a circle on the figure has the same meaning as the circle in the crux ansata.
Consistency in symbols.
Ra confirms it's a specialized form of that symbol, specifically related to the crossed legs of manifestation, nuance within the core meaning.
All right. Nearing the end. 94.28 and 94.29 look at the skirt and a black bag.
First, the questioner asks if the strangely shaped skirt is significant. Ra says yes. Then the questioner describes its asymmetry and the black bag on the left belt, interpreting the bag as acquiring material wealth via the left-hand path.
Trying to decode every detail. What about the bag interpretation?
Ra notes it wasn't their intended meaning, but the interpretation is quite acceptable. More room for personal understanding.
And finally, 94.3 wraps things up.
The questioner suggests the male figure shows the mind becoming more motivating with experience, then asks about improving the instrument's comfort or the contact.
How does Ra conclude?
They direct attention back to the shape of the garment, saying its unnatural shape is significant regarding the mind's role. They acknowledge the group's care, mention the fifth density friend's gift of coldness, thank the group for their alignments, and end with reassurance. All is well.
What a session. We covered so much ground, the practical challenges of the contact, the fifth density interference, the whole mechanism of catalyst, veil, and experience, plus that deep dive into archetype 4.
Absolutely. It's this blend of the mundane and the metaphysical that's so compelling. And you see the process unfold, the questions, the partial answers, the redirections, the moments of clarity.
What stands out to you as a final thought from this session?
Maybe the relationship between self-perception and actual progress were all touched upon. How easy it is to judge ourselves harshly, like the instrument did, and overlook the work we have done. And tied to that, the idea that experience itself, even challenging catalyst, is what ultimately builds both the fragility and the surety of our spiritual structure. It's not about avoiding difficulty, but about how we engage with it.
That's a powerful note to end on. This detailed walkthrough really illuminates the richness of Session 94. We definitely encourage you, the listener, to revisit it with these perspectives in mind. Let the concepts resonate.
Thank you for exploring this with us. Go forth, then, in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator.
Until next time, may your journey be filled with discovery.